Well, meanwhile, the feds have delayed new internet privacy rules that were supposed to be rolled out today. The regulations would have limited how internet providers like Verizon, AT&T, and Comcast use and sell your data.
The rules would have also given you the right to stop those companies from sharing personal information with advertisers and other third parties. CBS News contributor and Wired editor-in-chief Nick Thompson is here with us now to break it all down. Nick, thanks for being here.
Sure, glad to be here.
So, break this move down for us. How will this play out for consumers? I mean, and explain what is meant by the fact that these internet providers are now governed by the FCC instead of the FTC.
Right. So what happened is last spring, the FCC proposed that internet providers, so the companies at the backbone of the internet, the Verizons, Comcast, over which all of your information travels, that they, if they were going to sell your personal information, like where you are, where you browsed, your medical history, if they were going to sell that to advertisers, they would have to ask you. And you would have to agree to do that. So that was proposed, and that was voted on in October, and that was going to go into effect today. But now we have a new FCC, and the new FCC said, no, we don't need to do that.
Right.
Let's throw that one out the window. And what the reason, the justification they're giving is they're saying, oh, privacy regulation should be consistent across the internet. And they're right now weak privacy regulations governed by the FTC on companies like Google and Facebook. They don't have these onerous, restrictions. So we should also have weak restrictions on the broadband companies. And you could counter that and say, well, maybe everybody should have strong restrictions. Right. But this is where we are today.
So where do you see this ultimately going, Nick?
I think the current FCC, so far, based on its actions, does not see its constituents as the American people. I think it sees its constituents as the broadband lobby. And if that is the case, then we're going to have a whole bunch of policies that are really bad for us as consumers and are good for broadband companies' profitability and their lobbyists.
So what you are saying is you think the lobbying industry for broadband was so successful, and that's how the little people are losing out here.
Absolutely. Now, I could be wrong, right? I was quite suspicious of Tom Wheeler when he came into office. I think as a former broadband lobbyist, I thought, oh my gosh, more of the same at the FCC. Tom Wheeler came in and actually worked really hard to protect consumers, protect their data, as evidenced by these rules which he put forward and actually first spoke about on CBS this morning. So I was quite pessimistic about him. He turned out to be a consumer advocate. Based on his first month in action, I am pessimistic about Ajit Pai, the man who runs the FCC right now, but who knows? Give people a chance.
So what's interesting, Nick, and maybe this will shed some light for our viewers, there's a difference between the protection that, for example, a website like Google offers consumers versus your internet provider like Verizon, for example, to use one of them. What are those distinctions?
Well, the distinctions in how they should be regulated or in what they give you?
Well, in how, for example, the internet provider knows where I'm going, where I'm browsing all the time, and how does that protect me if somebody wants to attack or breach the data that is protected by Verizon, for example?
Well, so what's interesting about Verizon is they know everything. Right? They know every single thing because they know exactly where your phone is. They know the phone is in my pocket right now. They know every single thing I type. They know every single thing I send. You can use something called end-to-end encryption to keep your data safe from their prying eyes. It's a little hard to figure out exactly how to do it, but I think one of the things we're going to see, you asked where is this going to, I think we're all going to be using end-to-end encrypted messaging apps within a couple of years because this data needs to be protected.
And explain that. What is end-to-end?
Okay, so what end-to-end encryption means is that I see it, you see it. But in between, when it goes from me to you, as it crosses, when it goes to the cell tower, then it goes over the pipe, it goes up to your cell tower and goes back to your phone, nobody else can see it. It's completely encrypted. So that means that Verizon or AT&T can't get that information and can't sell it. So if we're using, we could even do it on Facebook Messenger, or we can do it on WhatsApp. Some of those things are defaulted end-to-end encryption by default. So that's a very strong form of protection. So back to the question about Verizon and AT&T, they see everything. Google also does see a lot. Google's in a lot more places than you think, right? Because they have all of your search history, they have YouTube, they have Gmail. So I can see the argument that it's a little unfair to Verizon to regulate them with tough regulations and to not regulate Google with tough regulations. What I can't see is the solution the FCC has proposed, which is to throw away the good regulations.
Unbelievable. Nick Thompson, thank you very much. Really interesting stuff.
Delighted to be here.